Ven Señor Jesús, Maranatha. Ven Señor Jesús, Maranatha.
Well, it's been an exciting day. It's been an exciting couple of days in Israel. The good news is that the 20 hostages that were returned are still back and safe and reunited with their families. And I was very moved when I saw the pictures of them being reunited with their parents or their spouses or their siblings. And yes, thank God, and President Trump. But remember my talks where I said this is not going to last. Well, it still hasn't lasted. I mean, in other words, it's day 3, and it's completely shattered the peace deal in the sense that Hamas is just totally blowing it off, and that's what today's show is going to be kind of about. I'll show a bunch of slides. So Hamas reasserts power in Gaza Strip as IDF retreats, and I will have photographs and video about that. Okay, so do not despair, that will be coming. Okay, after the IDF has withdrawn in part, homegrown enemies are now on Hamas's hit list. It's trying to kill, or it is killing, anyone it suspects of having been sympathetic to Israel or be a rival for power. If you get rid of the government, a dictator, like the United States did with Saddam Hussein, or in Syria when they toppled Assad, you have a power vacuum. And there are any number of would-be warlords who flood in and want to fill that power vacuum and want to be the police state of that country. Hamas has renamed itself the Gaza Security Force, and it is trying to get rid of all rivals. Hamas has begun a deadly crackdown hunting down rival militias in Gaza. And Hamas has reportedly begun eliminating its rivals in Gaza. I will show you video of that. Hamas is hunting down militias who opposed or even just questioned the group's rule. And the Saudi Daily reported this. And Hamas deployed its fighters in Jabalia refugee camp in northeast Gaza City. According to the report, Hamas operatives have killed some militia members and arrested many others. Yesterday, at this time, the count that we got from Tusi was that they had killed 32 rivals in Gaza City with public execution, arrested 24, critically wounded 30, assassinated the senior advisor to a rival tribe, and they were hunting for all anti-Hamas Gazans. On October 10th, Hamas claimed it killed members of the Dormush family for previously resisting the group. In southern Gaza, armed clans are trying to form anti-Hamas zones, reportedly with Israeli backing. So this is what you have in Egypt with the Arab Spring. This is what you had in Iran when they toppled the Shah. This is what you had in Syria when they toppled Assad. This is what you had in Libya when they toppled Saddam Hussein. And you get the normal behavior of these rival warlords. Remember, one of the reasons why Hamas is going to be killing every representative of Fatah and the Palestinian Authority in sight is not just because they're a rival seeking power, but it's because Hamas exists to make the world subject to Sharia law, to Islamic law, whereas the Palestinian Authority simply exists to kill the Jews and take over Israel. Palestinians in the PA Authority are not wearing burqas, and they're not keeping their hair covered, and they're not good Muslims. So they're also the enemy of Hamas. You can see that this whole idea of peaceful coexistence was a joke from day one. But remember what I've been, my song I've been singing for the last 4 days. This was a good plan because it got the hostages home, and all hell can break loose afterwards, but nothing is lost because all hell was breaking loose beforehand, but the hostages were still hostages. Okay? And I think that Trump wasn't so dumb that he didn't realize that that was the purpose of the plan. I think that was his purpose from the get-go. the agreement was violated when on the first day the deceased were not returned. The contract that Hamas signed said that on day one, all hostages, living and deceased, will be returned. They didn't. Therefore, they violated the agreement already. So anyway, Hamas openly admits it has no intention of disarming or giving up power in Gaza. Two core requirements of the ceasefire deal it accepted just days ago. In an interview last night, Hamas spokesperson Hazem Kazem declared the group will reject all Israeli demands related to weapons, saying, "We will not be prisoners to Israeli terminology or demands. This will be a key focus in the next phase of our struggle." You could say, well, why did they sign the deal then? What do you expect when a Muslim terrorist group signs an agreement? You expect them to keep the agreement? You have to be dumber than a rock to believe that. It didn't take them long, right? It didn't take them 2 days to say, are you kidding? We have no intention of doing what we just agreed to do. Qassam also signaled that Hamas plans to reinterpret the signed agreement on Gaza's governance, pushing for a governing body that aligns with its agenda and preserves its influence. In other words, it intends to continue to rule Gaza. Hamas is openly defying the peace deal as it prepares for the next war. What did anyone expect? That's why I don't think Trump was that dumb. I don't think Jared Kushner was that dumb. Witkoff, I don't think he's that dumb. He might be that dumb. But anyway, okay, so if you have children, if there are children watching, I think you want them to leave the room for this, because this is a video of Hamas members executing Gazans for not being cheerleaders for Hamas. Maybe they were members of rival families, who knows? So let me start the execution video. Okay, so there you see the cheering, entertained crowd. There you see the 7 victims kneeling on the ground with blindfolds on. And here we go. Now, you hear the shouts of the crowd. They're cheering. And so this is after, obviously, the shooting.
Over the last few hours in Gaza, we've had absolute mayhem because Hamas have retaken control of the streets, and their forces have already killed 32 members of the rival groups and tribes in Gaza City, and 24 others have been arrested. 30 have been critically wounded by Hamas. This is part of the internal conflict in Gaza, which again the mainstream media are not really interested in covering, but it's very important to show the absolute chaos that you're seeing in Gaza, not just Gaza City, but around Gaza Strip in general. Now, senior advisor to the anti-Hamas tribe, Yasser Abu Shabab, was reportedly eliminated as part of they were initially obviously given payment to some of the other tribes to find the others, to hunt them down. But then a lot of them have now been killed anyway. But there is a hunt. There's a manhunt by Hamas to find all the other anti-Hamas Gazans to ensure that there is no group that is a rival to Hamas remain.
Ven Señor Jesús, Maranatha. Ven Señor Jesús, Maranatha. Ven Señor Jesús, Maranatha. Si ven pronto, Maranatha.